भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। The Upanishadic style of approach, which includes the preparatory mindset of the Sishya. Such prepared is the Sishya that the question has a certainty and a direction which indicates the sincerity of the student as well as the eagerness to understand that which has been trying to investigate. So the approach of the student here is very direct. The student's approach, though being direct, the teacher here can very clearly see that the student is being in a cycle, and it is the duty of that teacher to break that cycle so that he can take him beyond what he is caught up in. So in the most logical sense, the student asks, Keneshitam patati preshitam manaha kena prana prathama praiti yuktaha. The organs of perception, organs of action, the mind, intellect, and the all layers of personality, they function with their capacities. Both the functionality as well as the organ seems to function in its field. Who is it that directs it? Who is it that empowers it to function in its own field? So the teacher clearly observes that this is not an ordinary student. This is not a student who has come saying, I have a problem. But instead, this is a student who has come saying, I need a solution. Look at the difference. Those who are saying, I have a problem, they are so caught up in the problem that they are not able to pull themselves out of it. Now here is a guy who comes and says, I have a problem, but I need a solution. I need a solution, and therefore I am asking you. And the web that he is caught up in is this investigative mode which the secular world inadvertently teaches us. So to investigate, you have the pratyaksha pramana, anumana pramana. So that which you see, that which you can infer. Beyond this, the other kinds of pramana has never been an experience. So he is in a loop of this pratyaksha and anumana pramana. And both of them have failed utterly. Pratyaksha pramana says something, but the scriptures talk something else. The pratyaksha pramana insists on seeing is believing. And the scriptures very clearly state that whatever you see is not necessarily what you see. And then anumana pramana also cannot be applied in this field. So to such student, the answer is in the same tone and language that the student cherishes to use. So the teacher's answer was, Shrotrasya shrotram manaso mano yat. Shrotrasya shrotram. It is the ear of the ear, eye of the eye, mind of the mind, and prana of the prana. It functions through them as that equipment and its capacity, but it's something which is beyond, something which is not limited by the instrument and its functionality. And in the third mantra, the teacher now clearly wants to break the pattern of the student, hence therefore very clearly states, the known means of investigation cannot take you there. And he makes a very beautiful statement. And any sincere student reading this mantra, the third mantra, gets stirred up from within. What does the mantra say? Anyadeva tad viditadatho aviditadadhi iti shushruma purvesham yenastat vyacha chakshire. The rishis of past have given this beautiful knowledge. What is it? I know what I know. I also know that which I don't know. I also know that which I don't know that I don't know. I am not trying to use or confuse with words. A simple example which I have constantly asked, which will again come in the second chapter of Kenopanishad. What is on my hand? So do you know that there is a watch? Now what is on my hand? Nothing. Do you know that there is nothing on my hand? Right? So you know the presence of something, you know the absence of something. Similarly, when you look at internally, you know that you know something. And you also know that you don't know something. And you are also aware of the fact that you don't know those things that you don't know. Damada kaduchi. What? Come again? Yes. That falls in the category of those things that you don't know that you don't know. Not that it matters, but there is. Which is probably a slight variation of the second category. So in all these three cases, there was something which was illumining the knowing aspect, the not knowing aspect, and that aspect which I don't even know that I don't know them. All these things are illumined, and that illumination is the self. After having given this far, he takes us to the next leap, wherein every student might get trapped in this level. And this can become such a big stumbling block in a sadhak's life that you would find that the next 4 or 5 mantras are in a repeat mode, so that there is an abhyasa for the student. Like even when you want to emphasize something, don't we hear ourselves repeat that sentence? Like if you want to catch the attention of your child and you want to emphasize into their heads, do you understand? I'm asking you, do you understand it or not? Do you? Why do you insist on do you? Just that repetition, the emphasis is so that you can cross the barriers of any kind of rejection and trying to react to the injunctions. So here too we will find in the next 4 or 5 mantras that there is a repetition of the theme of the mantra, but each one with its own subtle variation. So what does the 4th mantra say? Repeat after me. Yad vachanabhyuditam yena vagabhyudyate tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. Yad vachanabhyuditam yena vagabhyudhyate tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. Yad vachanabhyuditam, that which cannot be revealed by speech. That is why in Dakshinamurti Stotram, Adi Shankaracharya ji very beautifully puts it, saying, Mauna Vyakhya Prakatita Parabrahma Tattvam. It cannot be revealed by words. Hence, therefore, the eloquence of silence. And it has to be intuitively understood in that silence. And words can only point us towards that silence. Cannot describe it. Words cannot take us that far. In some of the Upanishads themselves have claimed, the Shruti also fails to take you there. It can only point you towards that. Can you find any other scripture which invalidates itself in presence of that absolute truth? The scriptures themselves claim that the Veda becomes Aveda. So the scriptures have a limitation, words have limitation. So that which the speech cannot reveal, that which cannot be perceived through speech, but that in whose illumination we understand the speech. Are you getting what I'm saying? How do you know that you're getting it? That knowing principle is the illuminator of what you are hearing or what you are saying. That which the speech cannot illumine, but that which is illumined by the speech. And he says, Tadeva Brahmatvam Vidhi. Understand that to be Brahman. Now look at the language of the Guru here. For the Shishya, this whole concept, this whole tattva of Brahman is pretty new. And that is why there is a reference to this Brahman as that. See, when we use these words tat or tad and idam, that and this, it's always point of reference. That is usually giving us the distance of space and time, which can be otherwise said or interpreted as that has the gap of experiencing. And that is why it is called that. The moment you have transcended the time and space or the concept of experiencing, it is no more referred to as that. It is always referred to as this. The closest that you can get to. So that is why here he is trying to point out that which you think now, even at this moment, it is a concept in your head. You are trying to grasp that. With your intellect, you are trying to grasp the concept of that Brahman, which is trying to illumine even that conceptualization. So if you are understanding that knowing aspect of your understanding, that which is illumining your understanding, know that to be Brahman. So where is the student still? He is still in the world of concepts. He is still consumed in the world of concepts. There are some knots in the concept, and again the knots can be seen on the face. What exactly are you trying to say? You are trying to say that you know what you know that you don't know, you know that those things that you don't know that you don't know. What is this? No. And finally the student would say that, it's maddening. No more. And the teacher also says, that is exactly what I am trying to tell. No more. So that which is being illumined, focus on that unconditioned. Because the moment it becomes a concept, it has already become a condition. And any conditioning is vulnerable to time and space. Any conditioning for that matter. It binds us to a certain experience, to a time, to a space. And the moment there are some parameters which change with the time, space and experience, the conditioning tends to break itself or modify itself. And that which is constantly modifying and remodifying cannot be truth. Oh, that was yesterday's truth. Today's truth is different. Truth cannot modify and remodify. Truth is something which is constant. So that unconditioned illumining aspect which illumines all concepts, that you are trying to understand, that which even the speech is trying to utter, that illuminator of that speech is called Brahman. And the Rishi steps forward. He says the next concept. Now from now on, the next 3-4 mantras, they are in a repeat mode. He says, Yan manasa na manute Yena hurmano matam Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi Nedam yadidam upasate. Yan manasana manute yena ahur mano matam. That which illumines the mind, but that which the mind cannot illumine. Have you ever watched these dogs trying to catch their own tail? Even for their size and level of consciousness, they're pretty smart things. I don't know what instigates them to run around their own tail. Never gotten into their brains to understand it, but whatever be the cause, maybe a scratch, maybe that itch there, that they want to catch it. And they run. And what I have found, especially these cute little ones, the furry ones, what do you call it? Pomeranians. Very funny breed, sorry. So they run around their tail. They keep rotating. And suddenly they stop, as if they have a revelation. They said, oh, what? Wait. I think the tail is designed to be that side. Hence, therefore, they turn the other way around and try to catch it. And they go grrr on the other side. Whichever way you try to catch your tail, it is still inaccessible. Similarly, the mind trying to focus on its own source through the mind is an impossible task to catch. So, yan manasana manute, that which cannot be felt by the mind. Hence, therefore, any definition of Paramatma or the self cannot be a feeling of the mind. One of the definitions of Paramatma is happiness or bliss. So, happiness and bliss cannot be a state of mind or a feeling of mind. Because if it were a status of the mind, how is our mind? Chanchala. Chanchala, constantly moving. You know, these days these social networks have so much of status update. I don't know what is the fantasy there, wherein I am now in the kitchen, I am now in the bathroom, I am now in front of the books, but I don't feel like reading. Every 10 minutes there is an update. And there are enough people to like it and comment on it. And that shows the volatile nature. And if it were the paramatmic state, that it was a status of the mind, or it was the feeling of the mind, it would have been constantly fluctuating. Again, that which is constantly fluctuating cannot be Paramatma, because that which is illumining the fluctuations is Paramatma. It cannot be that which is the nature of fluctuation, but under whose light, under whose illumination I can identify the state of fluctuation is my true nature. Tadeva Brahmatvam Vidhi. Understand that as Brahman. Na idam yadidam upasate. That's another important sentence. Whatever else the method or means in the field of spirituality that we end up using is just a means and not a goal. All forms of upasana equip you to take you closer to that Paramatma, including the Upanishad. The Upanishad doesn't promise you self-realization. It just promises you a VIP seat next to Paramatma. Now, identifying with that Paramatma and abiding in it is our choice. Similarly, any form of upasana, whether it be puja, japa, dhyana, whatever be the upadhi, the process of change towards that supreme, it can take us only so far. It is not to belittle any one of these processes. Don't misunderstand these 4 mantras. That Upanishad is bashing all the other upadhis or other processes as inadequate. No, there is validity for each process in its own place. There is a necessity of japa, there is a necessity of pranayama, there is a necessity of puja, there is a necessity of savikara dhyana, and there is a necessity of nirvikara dhyana. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana have their place. So all these different upadhis of upasana are required, but understand that these processes are just means and not the goal. So never interpret spirituality as doing good and being good. Because most of the neonatal intellectuals, they're not just new to intellectualization, but they are also very balastavat, wherein their interpretation of spirituality is, what is there in spirituality? Do good and be good. Do you think the masters were fools? That they had to spend hours and hours of research and jot them down in form of scriptures for the posterity in so many various angles and perspectives, if they had to just say, do good, be good? Spirituality is not about being good or being bad. It's about transcending both goodness and badness to acquire, to ascertain, to firmly abide in that which is beyond both good and bad, which is called divine. So when you understand this bottom line, it does not matter what process of sadhana we are using. Firmly have faith in your guru who has given you the process and abide in that. Do not need to compare with others. Yeah, this is a very wrong kida. Kida? A worm, bug. A bug is the right word, which keeps bugging us from within. I know I have this process. I have been doing this for months and there is no change. I think I should need a better sadhana. I think I should change for a different process. See, that which has been given unto us as a process of evolution is not to be something which is used to compare with others and then catch upon like how much progress did you make, how much progress did I make. It doesn't even make sense in the material sense to compare with the outside world, which we do as a mistake inadvertently. We compare the older son with the younger son with the older son. Look at your brother, look at your sister, learn something. The standpoint being, you cannot look at the others, because I am not what he or she is not what I am. It is not just apples and oranges, they are at least in the same classification of fruits. It is totally two different specimens. So comparison doesn't even work in the material field. So if we understand this process is used as a cleansing agent to disidentify from any kind of process that we get identified with. What is upasana meant for? Upasana is meant for cleaning, so that I can uplift myself, turn my buddhi from externality to internal. Now how does it matter if you use Surf or Rin or Tide or any other brands? So you understand the purpose. It doesn't matter what kind of washing machine you use, it doesn't matter what kind of soap you use. Ultimately, does it clean? What is the purpose of having all this and saying, I have it all, but never clean? I have an altar, I have a beautiful murti, I have nice puja thali, I have nice everything decorative, but never sit there and use it so that I can clean. And some people are attached to their sense of doership so much that they do not understand the bottom line or the purpose of their upasana. In the most technical terms, what does upasana mean? Nikrushta vastuni utkrushta buddhihi. In and through all these which are temporary, to identify that constant permanency of divine anywhere we interact. We have stones. Whether you get it from Kailasha, whether you get it from Gangaji, whether you get it from Narmadaji, we get the stones. If you look at it, it is nothing but stone, it's a pebble. But in that pebble, what do we invoke? Bhagavan Shivji. Now you look at the stone and which aspect of it is Shiva? Through that stone we are going towards the higher. Nikrushta vastu. Utkrishta buddhihi. It is taking you towards that sublime. In Gandaki river, you get these stones which have imprints of a sali, spider. And it lives there, hence therefore it is called Salik Grama. Grama Nivasasthana. And it has become fossiled. So you will see the imprint of that spider inside. Circular, various kinds, shapes, colors. And you bring them and invoke Sriman Narayana in it, Lord Narayana himself in it. Gandaki river. So you, through those things you invoke that Paramatma in the form of Narayana. Nikrushta vastu, you look at it, it's nothing but stone. It's nothing but metal. Sometimes it's nothing but crystal. But what you are tending to invoke is that sublime within. That process is to just take us from this level to next level. It's just a means, it's not a goal. There are several kinds of means which take us towards that goal. Do not get caught up in the means. As long as you know it takes you across. Fastest, safest. How do I have never tried it? If I had already traveled it, I would never come back. On every step there is such a dilemma here. If I already used it, I would never care come back. But I have never used it, now how do I trust it works? That is where faith in someone that you have trust in that their methods are something that will benefit you. Having that trust in them that they would not use anything that could harm us, that would limit us, that would condition us further. So with that faith, we jump in. They don't promise a smooth sail, but they definitely promise reaching across. The means doesn't matter. But many get caught up in the means, in the process. Like Gurudev used to joke. He was taken by a very rich man to his house who had been following Gurudev for almost 12-13 years. He said, Swamiji, I have been following you for 12-13 years. I have heard almost all your talks in entire Maharashtra. Wherever you had gone, I have been following you. And because of your blessings, now I have become a rich man, successful person. And I have now acquired a good place to stay, wherein I have dedicated an entire space for my meditation puja as a sacred altar. I want you to visit one day. So he takes him to that place. A very beautiful, artistically done house. You could see the heart in it. There's somebody who really did it with heart. Elaborately designed puja room. Everything is such spick and span, clean and beautiful it looked. So Gurudev turned to this gentleman and he said, it looks so spick and span. Have you ever used it? So he says, I am waiting for a deer skin. Because in 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita it is said, Chailajina kushottaram. Ajina, to get that deer skin, that which is not hunted and killed but that which has a natural death, that kind of skin I am waiting for, somebody has promised. Once that comes, then I will start. Don't get caught up in the processes. You understand where the processes fit in and use the process to transcend. After getting the deer skin, it will be something else. There are many people who say, I'll get into spirituality, Swamiji, after my responsibilities are done. Tell me one point of time and space wherein your experience of responsibilities will end. The day that the responsibilities will really end is when people around chant Ram Naam, Satya hai. And there are 4 of them at least carrying. That is when the responsibilities really come to an end. But we have reasons. Nedam yadidam upasate. Continuing further in the same. Yachakshusha na pashyati yena chakshugamshi pashyati yena chakshugamshi pashyati tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. when we read the Vedic mantras, the nasal makara is often read as gum. And don't listen to it in English. It's a Sanskrit syllable. Ga with halanta with a bindi on the top. Chandrakara bindi. Yat chakshusha na pashyati, yena chakshugamsi pashyati. Eye of the eye. That which the eyes cannot perceive, but that because of which the eyes can perceive. Is perception Brahman? No. That because of which perception happens is called Brahman. Can you exist with or without perception? Yeah, we can. All of you, close your eyes. You would be scared to close your eyes if you had known that the moment you close your eyes, you cease to exist. You are carefree about closing your eyes and opening your eyes because you know that you will continue to exist even after closing your eyes. Or else nobody would have slept. पता नहीं बाबा आंखें बंद करूंगा कुछ हो गया तो. That which cannot be perceived by the eyes, but that because of which perception can happen. Even in our mortal language, when somebody dies, those near ones and dear ones sitting across that, what do we say? वो अब नहीं रहे. He or she has gone. So what is left? We clearly know what is left is not what I am attached to. Right? But when it comes to us, knowing very well that I was not attached to this body, but that which was enlivening that body, but somewhere coming down here, the entire equation changes. We get a big zero in our mathematics, personal mathematics. We tend not to realize that aspect, that I am something enlivening this equipment and not the equipment or the capacities of the equipment. And with the eyes that you perceive and the eyes what you can do, the upasana is just the means to take you closer towards the core of your own being. And another beautiful point. That which you recognize is not taking you closer to that core within. Through any one of these upasanas highlighted, what should that intelligent seeker do? If you constantly keep experiencing something that is taking you away from the core of your own being, something which generates a lot of frustration and agitation, shouldn't we pause, analyze as to, if my effort is to going towards restfulness, peace and happiness, and I am constantly in this agitated mode, should I not re-evaluate my processes? But instead of re-evaluating, instead of revisiting our convictions, we are somebody who once gets convinced, cannot withdraw, and it's too difficult to get us convinced about anything. Very stubborn personalities we have. Too difficult to change the convictions, and it's that difficult to get any conviction in first place. Now with these, he continues with the next shloka, next mantra, next two mantras, we will read it together. He says, Yat shrotrena na shrunoti yena shrotramidam shrutam tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate yat pranena praniti येन प्राणः प्रणीयते तदेव ब्रह्मत्वं विद्धि नेदं यदिदमुपासते. What cannot be heard by the ear, but that which illumines, or that because of which the ear has the capacity to hear, is called Brahman, not that which is being done as a upasana through the ears. See, music, mantras, sounds, sacred syllables can highlight the process to take you towards the core. But there is no mantra, no music, no such sound that can promise realization. That suddenly you hear something, all the darkness is dispelled, all the ignorance is wiped out, and you become glowing self from within. Kuch nahi hai aise. Get out of such stupid thinking. They help us reorient our focus. That's the purpose. Nothing more to bet on it. In fact, we should grow to such an extent that any sound that comes our way should be able to trigger us towards that core of our being. But the moment we hear sound, the first thing that we decipher, good or bad, and not good or bad based on morals, ethics and values, good and bad based on my likes, my dislikes. See, the words in certain language mean something else, in certain other language it means something else altogether. Hindi, what does chor mean? In Malayalam, what does chor mean? Cooked rice. In Tamil, what does parupu mean? Dal, right? In Telugu, what does parupu mean? Bedding? I can go on. We get caught up with the words and their meanings that we have given to those, value to those words. Sound, which is nothing but words, per se don't have either goodness or badness. Sound is born from the silence and merges back into that silence. See, most of us love getting to that ocean, watch those waves, and that sounds are so beautiful. You know why? Between every chaotic wave pattern of sound that comes, there is an all-consuming silence. In from that silence, as though the wave is born, and into that silence, the wave merges. Similarly, any sound that comes our way should take us back to that silence. But instead, that sound seems to trigger off likes, dislikes, memories, and we go off in a tangent far away from that silence which is the core of our own being. Even sound can be made a process of upasana, but we get distracted. So it can only take us so far, it can reorient us and get us that focus. Don't get caught up in that, sacredness of syllables or non-sacredness of words. Everything that has come from the Lord. This is what Bhagavad Gita also says. Shabdah khe paurusham nrushu pranavas sarva mantranam. Of all the mantras, the pranava is the form of my expression. Not just pranava, but any sound that is made in this universe is nothing but my own expression. The sound should take us back to that focal point within. Yat pranena praniti, yena prana praniyate. This is another one of those concepts which most of us need to grasp really well. Because what gives us life? Prana. What has gone? Prana. Consciousness is independent of prana. That because of which prana goes in and out. That which permits the prana to keep going in and out is called consciousness. Through this pranopasana, you can tune yourself to reach towards that core. But it is also a means, it is also a process towards that, and it is not an end in all. And people take to such fanatism about each one of these processes, and then even claim tall claims as to how their process alone is the best process. And Baba, which detergent you use, it I don't care. Clean yourself, go fast. Instead of cleaning and focusing on cleaning, my detergent the best. Who cares? Does it work for you? Use it and move forward. हिंदी में कहा जाए तो पतली गली से निकलो, सीधे सीधे. Don't waste time on unnecessary fanaticism as to which process is great. Don't get caught up in that. You see that that process helps you. Does your mind get peace? Does your mind reach to that focal point? Does your mind get equipped to get disidentified with all these processes? Use it and get out of it. Well, what about advocating it for others? First, help thyself. Reach to a substantial platform wherein you can reach your hand out to someone who can be helped. Which I think in the field of West, they consider this spiritual standpoint as the most selfish one. They would not care about anything else. The point is not about caring about others. If you do really care, come back equipped. You can do better. Don't do a sloppy job. Come back so prepared that you can do a perfect job. In saving one, you may be ruining 10. Come back perfected so that you can save all 10. That is the focal point that they are talking about. So don't get caught up in the process. Does it help? Use it and move forward. Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. And what is the focal point that this should bring into? That awareness which illumines the knowing, the not knowing, and also that which you don't know that you don't know. That awareness, what all these processes lead to, use them and be done with it. You have to wipe this floor. Okay. There is water that has fallen, you have to wipe the floor. Does it really matter whether it is a paper or a cloth or a fiber, as long as it serves its purpose? But do it effectively, that there is no reminiscent effects of any stain on it. What you use is immaterial. Similarly, in the internal world, subjective world, there are these different processes, use them and uplift thy own self. Now comes the questions. I promised you, tomorrow there will be questions, not that I will ask, but the Upanishad itself will ask. So the Upanishad in the second chapter starts with a warning in the form of a question or in the form of an objection, not a question necessarily. So the first mantra of the second chapter, repeat after me. Yadi manyase suvedeti dabhramevapi nunam tam vetha brahmano rupam yadasya deveshvatha nu mimamsyameva te manye viditam. It's a very subtle mantra, so pay a deep attention here. Yadi manyase suvedeti. Did you all understand the concept of the last chapter? Yes or no? Yes. Yadi manyase yes eti. If you say that you have understood the concepts of last chapter. Even a little, dabhrameva api nunam. Or it can be understood, what you claim to understand is very little. Because that which you are understanding is not Brahman, but it is just the reflection of that Brahman. A very subtle concept, Baba. And we very recklessly use terms like soul, spirit, God within. There are many such concepts we use. The Atman, Atma. So what is it that the concept here? Gurudev gives a very beautiful example. It's in the commentary. I'll use that and then continue with the other example. So usually when these people who have come from the war or people who are going to the war, when they enter into the airplane, when they enter the airport, either before boarding or just after boarding or just before coming out of the flight, the entire flight applauds their effort and thanks them. And in one flight, they all stood up after it reached to a certain height. It was like half the flight was filled with this group who had just returned from Iraq. And so the air hostess there announced, I think they all deserve, and they were coming back home for good. So they have served there for 2.5 years, they deserve our best. So let us stand up and let us all sing the, the national anthem. So everybody stood up and I also had to stand up. Some were putting their hands on their hearts, some were just standing stiff. So they all offered their salutation to those military people. Now if the military dress was hanging on a seat or a hanger or a chair, does anybody salute that military attire? Probably not. What you are saluting is the one who is wearing the cover. Right? So that which is within the layers of these various personalities that we have spoken is called the Jiva, the illuminator of all aspects. How many jivas are there? Because when we talk about the jivas, people have various such concepts. Earlier there were these many animals and other creatures. Now the human population is growing. How can the human population grow when there are certain number of jivas and they take a rebirth? There is some miscalculation happening. In a lake, how many reflections of the sun can occur at any given moment of time? As many ripples, as many waves, as many disturbances on the surface of the lake. Multiples of that will be the reflections in that lake. Isn't it? Each one is a tiny sun. If that is too much to imagine, let us take simpler example. Take 15-20 glasses of water. Put them in the sun. How many reflections do you see of that sun? As many containers. In those contents, you find that many reflections. Right? Does it really divide the sun? Does anything happen to that original sun? Does it get divided? Nothing happens to that sun. As many containers with the content, that many reflections. Similarly, as many containers with the content, that many reflections of that Brahman. If the internal waters, internal content is disturbing lots of waves in it, the reflection of that Paramatma is that disturbed. If the content carries a lot of murkiness in it, still the reflection is distracted. But if the content within is clear, deep, and undisturbed, clearer will be the reflection. Isn't it? So what is that? Antahkarana is the bowl, the internal lining of the bowl. The entire body is the outer surface of the bowl. Inside is called the four aspects of Antahkarana: Mana, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara. The more this Antahkarana is agitated, you would find that these agitations percolate out through the system, creating more agitations outside. And that is the best answer when somebody asks me, Swamiji, why is it that if Paramatma is all divine, that he has created such a corrupt world, so much of agitation, so much of bad here? Because it is an extension of our own contribution of agitations. And somebody said that day my mood must have been really off. Somebody said, Swamiji, they say Ramarajya. It was such a great, prosperous time. And look now in Kali Yuga what has happened. All atrocities and all so much. So I asked him, were you there when there was Ramarajya? No, Swamiji, I only heard of it. Now in Kali Yuga, are you there? Yes, Swamiji. Do you know the difference between Ramarajya and this time? You were not there, it was peaceful. You are there, hence therefore disturbance. You is the cause. As long as that entity I exists, the restlessness will exist. As long as that restlessness exists, the reflection within the container among that contents will be shattered. Fine-tune all layers of personalities to an extent wherein the content within is contained in such a peaceful manner that there is depth of clarity, there is no murkiness in it, depth of clarity, and it is completely peaceful, ripple-less. It is clear, crystal clear. You should have gone to this, Kailash Mansarovar Yatra time. There are these beautiful lakes, untouched by humanity. Why are they beautiful? You can clearly see the bottom layer. It's that beautiful. And from a distance when you watch, you find the entire, spectacular panoramic view of all the mountains, snow-capped mountains, blue skies. At the night time, you would have never seen a sky lit with that many stars. With almost every 5 minutes or 10 minutes once, you will see a shooting star. And you will find all that reflected in that beautiful surface. Breathtaking view. And it's another thing which words cannot justify. Such a picturesque, beautiful. What enhances that beauty is that lake, that body of water which does not have movement, which is clear, which does not have dirt in it, has settled down when you have acquired these statuses within. That illumining factor is called the soul or the jiva. That is a reflection within. Yadasya deveshvathanu mimamsyam evate. That is the illumining aspect which is not Brahman. So, what you think you have understood is still not in firm grounds. Hence, therefore, revisit your investigation and investigate thoroughly. Once we understand that this illumination that happens within is the jivatva, again for our own clarity, what is this jivatva consists of? The reflection plus the antahkarana plus the capacities of all these various organs of action and perception put together, amalgamated together, identified together is called jivatva. What do we have to do? Separate the identity. Because it is the nature of that illumination to illumine everything. It will illumine whether you are attached to it or detached to it. Sun gives you light and heat, whether you do your Sandhya Vandana or not. Whether you are attached to him or detached from him, sun does its job, it illumines. Right? Similarly, within, the detachment is from the layers of our personality, and the moment we detach and abide in that silence of illumination, we transcend the body, mind and intellect to realize intuitively that that which is the reflecting means here is nothing but the Paramatma alone. But until that detachment process has not occurred, we cannot be sitting in that silence of illumination. Where will our minds be distracted? What will our distractions be? The mind itself will be a distraction. All these various steps that have been explained so far as various upasanas will itself be the upadhi of distractions. These methods are used to change so that I get towards that firm platform within. it make sense? I still see some the chamak of clarity is not seen in the eyes. Yadi manyase suvedeti dhabrameva pinunam tvam vetta brahmano rupam yadasya deveshvathanumimamsya mevate manye viditam. So if you think that you have understood, it needs thorough processing and reinvestigation. Go revisit this again, says the master. Thus, having sent back, what does the student do? So he comes back saying, repeat after me. Naham manye suvedeti no na vedeti vedacha yo nastadveda tadveda no na vedeti vedacha. Language of Upanishad is always in its own mystical way, so that it will awaken the slumber of the intellect. Because the mind very easily catches upon anything that has a pattern in it. And once it understands the pattern, it can automate the process. Like you may catch yourself doing your japa or ashtottara namavali or whatever you are doing. You are like looking somewhere else. Om Ajaya Namaha, Om Avyaya Namaha, Om Avinashini Namaha, Om Nityaya Namaha. Your actually attention is somewhere else. You are grasping the data and processing it there, but on the side there is something else mechanically happening, automated process. You put it on the cruise mode and enjoy the sunset. What will happen? Accidents. So anything that can have a processing, the mind has a knack to automate the process. And here, the language of the Upanishad is to break such patterns of processing that the mind easily adapts itself to. The shock therapies, it's now settling down into that cozy environment of its familiarity. Suddenly there is a whip of unfamiliar words twisted around. It says, what? Come again? It's woken up, it's awakened. So the mantra here says, Naham manye suvedeti no na vedeti vedacha. So the student says, which can be summed up in a beautiful sentence in Hindi. It can be translated. So I asked somebody, how was the lecture? कुछ समझ में नहीं आया पर बहुत बढ़िया था. So Somebody commented on one of the Facebook statuses that I posted on Kenopanishad. It is awesomely confusing. I'm still to get the meaning of it though. It's that it is so awesome that it is confusing, or it is the best of the confusions, or still to figure that out. So the student here says, Na aham manye suvedeti. See, what you are trying to indicate, I don't claim that I have understood very well. And I don't even tend to say that I have not understood. Don't get me wrong. So the Guru says, those who comprehend it thus alone have comprehended. What a messed up comprehension is that? That somebody who comprehends and understands it as both that which is not known and known has alone understood it. So let's understand this in different stages. The first stage, Naham manye suvedeti. The words that you have used, if you ask me to repeat them with what you intend to mean, probably I may not be able to. But what you have directed through those words, I think I have a sense of understanding of the direction that you have pointed. Meaning your words were not important, but that which the words were pointing towards, that direction I have grasped. First stage, wherein the student has now tuned, plugged in with the master, with the Guru, that he understands not by the intellectual processing of the words, but through the pointers that the words are highlighting towards. It's as simple as when we drive on highways. If you are coming east on 161 towards Saket, what is the exit that you take? Preston. How far ahead do you get the signboard indicating Preston? Average, I mean, usually 1 mile minimum. The moment you say Preston, you see Preston there, 1 mile. Do you stop there? Don't, okay? Why? It is pointing you towards that exit which will take you towards Preston. That which is the indicator is not Preston. Words are just the indicators. So I am not getting into the semantics of your words, but I know the direction that the words are turning towards. I understand that. So somebody uses this beautiful sentence, don't go by what I say, don't go by what I mean. You're getting it? Don't get carried away by the words that I'm saying, but go by what it tends to mean, what they should get to that understanding. Similarly here he says, your words, what you have said, may not be very sure about it, but the meaning of what you are trying to, I think I am grasping that. This is at the lowest, grossest level of understanding. Little subtler than that. See, if this itself is a grossest, now what is a subtler one? That which this knowledge is trying to illumine as a concept only illumines the aspects of those things that which I don't know right now. It caters towards it. It's a very subtle point, grasp it very fast. So what does this entire processing of hearing this has done? Has stopped the itch of the intellect, wherein now I can transcend that intellect. As long as I am stuck with the words, meanings and the concepts, I am still in the realm of words. But through these words, those various queries that which I have not known have been answered to. Hence, therefore, I transcend the words, abiding in that which the words are trying to indicate. Until that itch of conceptualization subsides, there is no progress in the inner world. Unless you wash your feet before you enter the temple, there is no entry into the temple, into the sanctum sanctorum. Where should the cleaning process happen? Outside. Outside peripherals is the cleaning process. Once you have cleaned is when you step in front of the divine. Crossing all the layers of personality. So here he says, Naham manyesu vedeti. I will not claim that I have understood it all. But what I can claim is all that which I have tried to understand have catered to my conceptual intellect, which had the itch of questions. It has catered to that. And I see the limitation of my intellect, hence therefore I have enough to transcend that conceptualization. So I see what you are saying, but cannot even express what I see. Are you with me? A very subtle variation has been said. That the itch of the intellectualization has been subsided, transcended to that level wherein I experience, but I know not how to put it in words. Hence, therefore, I know it. It is not I think so, I know so. But the words cannot interpret what I know. Hence, therefore, a dilemma here. That I know it, but yet don't know how to know it, how to express it. So, all three stages are stated right in that mantra. And the Guru laughs probably. Must have been having that white flowing beard, must have been twisting around it and looking at the student in satisfaction and saying, Yonas tadveda tadveda. If someone is in this stage, no naha vedeti vedacha. Understand that such one has understood that which has to be understood, or experience that which has to be experienced. See, again, all these words have a limitation. Try to understand the limitation. That is exactly what he is trying to say here, that words have limitation. I don't go by what the word is trying to say, but what it's trying to mean. The moment we use these words like understanding, experiencing, there is a natural inclination of understanding of Triputi, the experiencer, the experience, and the experienced. Here there is no Triputi. There are no three things. The experiencer, the experiencing, and the experienced are one illumination illuminating its own self. Swamiji, is it pretty lonely there? I am the king of that country where I rule myself, by myself, for myself. Isn't it pretty lonely? It is alone, but yet not lonely. It is alone, but yet not aloof. This is what Gurudev used to say, relationless relationship to everything around. There, but not there. Can we make more sense of it? That we will see in the next mantra tomorrow. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.